Hello everyone, my name is Ravi and I'm a physicist at the University of Warwick. I study the sun's surface and its atmosphere, and today I'm going to take us on a journey to our nearest star. Here is a picture of our sun taken from a satellite in space. I wonder if you know what these dark regions are on the sun's surface. These are something we call sunspots. The face of our sun is ever changing. Sometimes there are a lot of sunspots and sometimes there aren't very many. These vary over a period of about 11 years. Now let's go closer still and zoom into one of these sunspots. They can be big. Some of them are bigger than entire countries, and some of them are big enough to swallow up the entire Earth inside them. This image was taken by a telescope on top of a mountain in Hawaii. The sun's surface is really hot. It's about 6,000 degrees Kelvin, and nothing can survive. Even diamonds would be vaporized instantly on the sun's surface. We therefore always have to look from a distance. Let's take a look at the area around one of these sunspots. The sun's surface is kind of bubbling, and each of these cells is about the size of France. Here we are looking at the sun's invisible ultraviolet light, and the bright explosive regions are where the sunspots are. Now here is one of the biggest explosions that we've ever seen on the sun's surface. Notice the bright looping arcs that the material forms as it erupts from the sun and then falls backwards onto the sun's surface. We call this return of material coronal rain. Now, to better understand what we've seen in the video, we're going to perform a small experiment. Maybe you've seen someone do this before. What I've got here is a simple bar magnet, and I'm going to place it underneath a piece of paper. And then I'm going to take some iron filings, and then I'm going to scatter these on top of the magnet. You can see that as I do this, a shape starts to emerge. You can see that the iron filings are following the magnetic field lines which come out of the magnet. And where have we seen this before? We've seen this same thing in the sun's atmosphere, those beautiful looping structures that we saw. This is material from the sun being guided by the sun's magnetic field and forming shapes similar to what we see on this piece of paper in front of us. Let's hold some of these ideas in our mind. The beautiful motions which we've seen within the sun's atmosphere and the patterns there and within the iron filings, and explore them further with dance.
Hello, my name is Kieran. I'm a dance artist from the place, and I'm here with Bobby, who is a musician who will accompany our session today. So we've just seen in the film how dynamic the surface of the sun is. Wasn't it amazing? Now we're going to explore with our bodies some of these different dynamics of movement that the sun has. Dynamics explains how many different changing movements the sun has. And in dance, dynamics is how we move our bodies differently with lots of varying qualities. So before we get moving, let's make sure that we're safe. So we might want to move any obstacles like chairs and tables out of our way, and make sure that we're not too close to anyone else in our space, and then also make sure that we're dressed safely. So I've taken my socks off to make sure that I don't slip around on the floor. Okay, so now that we're ready to move, let's get warmed up and begin our trip to the sun. So it's going to be very hot, so let's start to feel some of that warmth in our bodies. So we're going to rub our hands together, make some friction, start to feel that warmth. And we might take that into the arms, going on one arm and the other. And maybe we go across the chest and the back. Starting to warm up all the different parts of our bodies, down one leg and onto the foot. And down the other leg. And maybe we'll come back across the back and into the hands and even into the face, so we start to feel some warmth on our faces and our necks. And let's come back into the hands. Okay, great, and we're starting to get closer to the sun. So let's push ourselves upwards into the air. So we're going to take a deep breath in, and as we breathe out, we're going to push upwards, reaching high towards the sun. Breathing in and pushing down. And let's take one more of those. Pushing down. Great, and now we're getting even closer to the sun, and we can start to see that round circular shape. So let's see if we can start to make some big circles with our body. We can see how massive the sun is. Can you make your body as big as that? Reaching all the way out to the side, up high, all the way down to the floor. And let's reverse our direction. Reaching up high, all the way out to the side, down to the floor. Stretching out, and one more circle. Great, and let's come back to standing. Lovely, well done everyone. Okay, so now that we've warmed up and we've reached the sun, let's start to explore its surface. So the first thing we're going to explore is this bubbling surface of the sun. So we've got lots of different movement and activity constantly happening, which creates kind of a bubbling effect in the sun. So we can start to think about that in our bodies, about having lots of bubbles moving all the time, and maybe imagining the surface of our skin is bubbling. So we can start to imagine all of those bubbles happening, creating constant movement in the body. So maybe we can try that with some music. So perhaps we can start to imagine this bubbling happening in our fingers. And moving into the hands and the wrists. And into the arms, the shoulders, and the chest maybe. And moving through the legs and the whole body as well. So we've got lots of different bubbles all over the surface of the skin and the body, all moving together. And we might try focusing on one body part, maybe on a couple of body parts, and then moving back to the whole body. And we might make the movement quite big, maybe it grows high, and then we might make it quite small as well, maybe a bit lower. And then we can start to bring this down. And pause that exploration there. Okay, thank you. Great. Well done, really good job. Really nice bubbling movement. Okay, so we're now going to explore the explosive dynamic of the sun's surface. We might find this in areas where there are sunspots, where lots of particles are blasted out into space and it makes big explosions. So we're going to think about creating some of those big explosions with our bodies, maybe imagining that we're those particles being blasted out into space. So we might do some big explosive movements with our arms, or we might do some movements with the legs, or it might be with the whole body. So we can try lots of different ways that we can move out and away from the body in these big explosive ways. So should we try that with some music? Okay, let's give it a go. Maybe we'll try with our arms first, and then with some legs, and maybe with the whole body. And we might even try some jumps, something that sends us up into the air. We might try something that goes forwards, something that goes back. We might try some movements out to the sides. We might even try some explosions downwards. Okay, let's try a few more, however you want. Okay, great, really good job, well done. Lovely explosions. So when these explosions happen, we can get coronal rain, where some of the particles that are blasted out return back to the surface of the sun. And they create big, beautiful loop shapes as they do this, just like we saw Ravi doing with the iron filings and the magnet. So we're going to see if we can start to create some of these beautiful loop shapes with our bodies. So we might use our arm to create this loop shape. We might use our foot and our leg. We might use our backs and our spines to create these beautiful curved looping shapes. And this movement's going to be very different to our bubbling and our explosive movements. It's going to be a bit smoother and more continuous. The particles that make this are gas particles, but they're behaving a bit like a liquid because they're all moving together in the same direction. So we might want to think about the light, airy quality of gas particles, but also think about the smooth fluidity of liquid as we're doing these movements. So shall we try that with some music? Lots of different sizes as we move. And we might want to think about moving really high and then moving low. So we've got some different ways of creating our looping movements. Everyone. Okay, amazing. So we've got lots of different dynamic movements that we can play with. We're going to see if we can put those movements together to create one big dance for the surface of the sun with all of these different dynamic qualities. So we've got our bubbling movement, thinking about all of that continuous activity happening at the sun's surface. And we've got our explosive movement, thinking about those particles blasting out into space. And we've got our big, smooth, looping movements of the coronal rain returning back to the sun. Okay, so now we're going to try and improvise with these movements with some music. So you can try out whatever movements you like from what we've just done, and you can explore however you want to. So we can do the movements in different orders for different amounts of time. So for example, I might start with some bubbling movement, and then I might do an explosive movement, and then go into some coronal rain, looping movements. And then I might go back to some bubbling movements, and back into some rain, and I might explore that for a bit, and then go into another explosive movement. So you can do whatever feels good and natural for your body. So let's try that with some music. So whatever you want to start with. We can think again about moving high, moving low, and maybe doing some movements in the middle. And we can also listen to the music and see what it might be suggesting to us at different times. And we can think about big movements, and using smaller movements. So we've got these different sizes again. And we might think again about traveling around the space. Start to bring that down. Okay, brilliant, thank you. Beautiful movement, everyone. Loads of different dynamics happening. And now it's time for us to leave the surface of the sun and return back to Earth. So we're going to take some deep breaths to travel away. Feel ourselves drifting away from the sun, breathing in and breathing out. And we might want to bring our hands now to our belly, to feel ourselves breathing in and breathing out, and feel ourselves cooling down and slowing down as we drift away from the heat of the sun, and we come back towards the earth. floating down through space, through the sky, and feeling ourselves landing back on Earth, feeling our feet on the ground, and maybe we can wiggle our toes and feel the ground beneath us. And take one more deep breath. Brilliant, well done everyone, that was beautiful, lovely sun movements. And now that we're back on Earth, we're going to return to Ravi in the park.
While you've been dancing, I have been exploring some of these great drawings by the artist and astronomer Etienne Leopold Trouvelot. These are drawings of some of the activity that we see surrounding sunspots, prominences. Can you see different shapes within them? I can see things which look like trees, flames, and even animals. At the top there, I can even see something which looks like a giant mosquito. Why don't you revisit some of the videos we showed of explosions and activity on the sun's surface? Perhaps you would like to make your own drawings and paintings of these. I hope you've enjoyed this second video and this journey to the surface of our sun, our nearest star.